All right, so here we go. We're at the process here. If you look at my example that I've used in class for several days, I've taken that template that we use to learn about the different key poses of a walk cycle, and then I've extended that to 5 seconds or at least 120 frames. And then we went back and we tweened, I should say, I tweened in between those key poses and created the line art for those gaps in between those initial 8 poses, or I guess I should say 16. No, it was 8 poses. Now we have a full 16 pose walk cycle, and then it's been copied over and over to get our minimum. And mine comes out to about, what frame am I on? 128 frames. So the first few are the only ones. The first 31 are the frames that I've drawn and for the walk cycle and the tweens. So now what we're ready to do is get into the ink, the color and ink process. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I've got all of these down, and I'm going to clear out. So my walk cycle, what you want to look for is this. I have a left contact pose walk cycle that I'm starting with, and it ends right here with the left contact on the ground pose. So what I'm going to do, just to clear this out, and just to make sure that everyone knows that you do not have to color and ink every single frame individually. You have different things here that you can do. Let's see here. I'm going to hold Shift, select these, and I'm going to clear these keyframes. So now I've got my initial poses here. So I have 16 drawn out animated poses. And now what I want to do is take that and start to get it ready for color and ink. This is what I'm here for today. So my character I drew with basically a brush tool, or in fact, it was done on the newer version, which is like a fluid brush tool is what it's called. I don't believe that this version, it's kind of frustrating because I'm going back and forth between 2 different versions of Animate. My fluid brush tool is not here, but it still recognizes it. Couple things you should know about the tools that you're working with. Your pencil tool, if I draw a line with that, notice that it shows a stroke. It gives me the opportunity to change the thickness of that stroke right here. And so I can always go back, and if you drew your character out with a stroke tool, like a pencil tool, you can always go back and change the line quality like this. You can also change the line quality here as well. So you have different options that you can work with for stroke tools and the line quality. You can also tinker around with the width and notice how it kind of tapers off the edges, and you can get different looks, from this type of work or this type of tool. Same thing goes with a regular brush tool. Oh, sorry, wrong. Let me undo that. The paintbrush tool is also a stroke tool. Notice how this right here shows that the fill color is blocked out. It is a stroke tool, which again, I can select, I can change the thickness for, and I can change the line quality as well, right? So keep that in mind, because certain line quality, like this tool right here that I used to draw him out, I chose beforehand, before I started drawing him, I chose the line quality that I wanted for him. And so it didn't matter that if I had a stroke tool or not. In fact, I drew him with a brush tool, which is a fill tool. Notice when I select the brush tool here, it switches over to this. And I draw that out. I don't have the options to change this. I don't have the options to change the width. You can change the size. So if I select this, though, it's not going to let me change the size after the fact. That's the problem. Well, I say it's a problem. It could be a problem. So just know that certain tools will let you make certain adjustments. And that is what I want you to be aware of, because certain things can be changed in this process depending on what tools that you want to use. So let's say now I'm just going to continue using my brush tool, my same fill tool. What I'm going to do is start to add in some details, because at this point, all I asked for as a requirement was the line art for your character's walk cycle. Maybe you left out some details, and that's fine. This is where you're basically going to take these 16 poses, and you're going to treat it like your template, and you're going to create, add the details in for your character. And what I'm doing is basically just clothing this guy, adding in a few little simple details. And what else can I do here? Let's do something like this. You know, I can give him some other details. You know, maybe I want to give him something like that. I don't know. I can start giving this guy some personality. I'm not going through and making this super detailed, because I'm working on a wooden table with grooves and a mouse. So I'm pretty limited in what I can do right now. But that doesn't matter, because here's what I've got. I've got this guy, and let's say I've got his details added here. If you wanted to color and ink this guy, what you can do is you can set up another layer in your timeline here, and you can make it like your color guide. So let me do that real quick. Oops, not a folder. So I'm going to create a layer. I'm going to call this my color guide. And I want to make sure that this color guide is not going to get in the way. So what this is going to be is basically swatches of the colors that I need. That way I can easily go back and choose the colors that I want for this character. And so let's say I want to use, well, the green for one. I'm using this outline green color. That's something that I'm going to need, right? So I'm going to take that green color, and I'm going to create a little swatch with it, and I'm just going to create a simple shape with no stroke. So I'm going to turn off this, and I'm basically going to say, okay, that's my green color that I want to use. Let's say I also want to use a blue color. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Here's the blue color that I want to use. Let's say I want to use a red color. I'm going to choose that. And I'm only doing this on this color guide layer. I think he needs kind of a skin tone. So let me go ahead and choose something like that. And if you don't like this color picker, open that up, and now you have a huge range of colors that you can work in. And so you can pick and choose what you want. And that looks pretty good to me. I'll do that. It's kind of a little more beigey than what I was thinking, but that's okay. All right, so I've got, what else does he need? Yeah, he's gonna have, so there I go. I've got some color swatches here. These are maybe the main colors that I want to use for this character. So let me say I want to now start to, he's already lined, what we call inked, like the outline of him is already made here. And that's probably something that you want to go through and do first for your frames. And so to make that easier on yourself, you can refer back to your onion skin, I'm only going to look at the previous frame though. And I can go and say, all right, well, I'm going to use this and I want to choose a color. I want my color to be this one actually. So see how I did that? I can change between my colors. Let's say I wanted to do red. I can change the color of him red. See, I already have him selected, but I want him to be green. I want him to stay green. But if I wanted to choose a color for, let's say his shirt, I would need to go over here to this bucket, my fill color here. And with my little dropper, I can choose the blue and I have easy access because when you look at it, which blue did I choose? Oh man, I don't know. I could spend all day, or not all day, but a lot of time trying to decide what color is the right one for me. So this will help. These little color swatches, this color guide will help you along the way, make things easier. So let's go back and let's do the line art on this guy. So I'm going to choose this. I'm going to choose my my brush tool, and I'm going to basically use my onion skin to help me as a template remember and decide where my details are. Could be kind of, especially if you have a detailed character, a more detailed character than what I have. Notice how this character, his head is slightly different. So his hat might be, not exactly the same. His ear would be lower. His nose would be out here. His smile would be here. His eye would be here. All right, so now I've got a couple frames. I can go and slide down the way here and do the same thing. I can see what the previous pose is and where he's at right now. So I can say, okay, his head's a little bit lower, so his hat's going to be a little bit lower. His ears here. And this will help me get all of those details down. Some of you might already have this down and completed from your tweening. You might have already included notice how his body is down. You might have already included your details for your character, which is great. All I didn't need to do is add his collar right there. So now I've got a few frames, all right? Here he is. He's kind of janky looking, but he works. And when he's playing full speed, you'll hardly even notice. All right, so don't be too worried about that. So now let's get to the color process. I've got this color guide set up. I've got a few framed ink for him now. Let me go ahead and start to do the color. I'm going to use the paint bucket tool. That's going to be a tool that's going to make this an easier and faster process for me. So I'm going to go here and let's say, you know what? I'm not a big fan of this green anymore. I want to change that. Oops, saving auto recovery. That's always a good thing. I'm going to choose my tool here and I've selected all of this green here. This is something you have to do ahead of time. So it selected all of my green line art. And let's say I want to do a black instead. I'm going to choose a black and I'm going to create a little swatch up here. All right, go my bucket tool, actually select my character again. Notice how he's all selected. I'm going to use my paint bucket tool. Our black is already selected. And what I'm going to do is just choose black up here. Now he's got a black outline. So if you don't like the color that you chose before, or if you want a different color instead of black, then you can always go back and change it pretty easily. So now let's get to the rest of the coloring here. I'm going to deselect my character. So just select something out here. I'm going to use my bucket tool. And let's say I want him to have a green shirt. So I'm going to go to my swatch here and I'm going to use my little eyedropper and go up here to the green that I already have pre-selected. And I'm going to fill this guy in. It's only going to fill in areas that are completely closed. Okay. So if you left a loop open, it's not going to let you completely fill that. So let me show you an example here. Let me use a pencil tool and I'm going to draw this out. And it wants to auto-correct it. Okay, that was not a good example. Let me use my paintbrush tool And let's say you get close, but you didn't quite close that circle, and I go to fill that, it doesn't want to do it. There are ways that you can tell the art or the tool to close gaps, don't close gaps, close large gaps. I would say that's a large gap. Let's see if it will fill it. It fills it now, okay? So there's a little thing that you can do. What's considered a large gap and a medium gap and a small gap? I'm not sure. It's just something that's already determined. So apparently Animate says that this is not a medium gap, that is a large gap. Sometimes there's a gap and you don't even see it. So be aware of that. It goes off now. All right, so I've got, that's funny, I did my black swatch on the actual animated part. So let me take that. If you have something in the wrong place, I'm going to cut that from there. I'm going to move it to this frame and I'm going to paste it in place right there. So now I've moved it from one layer to the X. So now it should not show there. Perfect. Yeah, it doesn't. I turned off the vision on that, turn off the color guide, and it's gone. So good. So now I'm back to my character. I have closed gaps, I believe, all over my character. So I think I should not have a problem. So now let's go back to my paint bucket tool. Let's use my color swatch here and choose my picker for that red that I already have. And I'm going to fill in these gaps that I need for red. Why did it do that? I don't know. And so I want him to have red shoes and I want him to be wearing blue jeans. So I'm going to choose my picker, use my color guide, and there we go. Let's say I want him to have skin tone. And there I go. Maybe a nose as well. And voila, I've got my character painted. Now you're going to get into a rhythm of doing this. I'm going to go into my next one. First thing I know that I want to do, his frame and his line art is already selected. So I'm going to go here and choose black. I'm going to deselect. Now I'm going to use my paint bucket tool, this, and I'm going to go down the line. I'm going to just like a production line, I'm going to start doing this. It's kind of like what's that? Sandbox? I think that's a color app. My kids love to mess with that. And it's like coloring by pixels. And to keep my colors consistent, I'm sticking with my color scheme here. This is also something that would be helpful when we get to the background as well, is creating a kind of a color scheme, a color guide to help out with this process. See, one thing I missed was the shoes, which were red. So just like that, done. Next one, right? Choose this, choose the black. I can undo. Hit V, select out here, and then go through my color process. This doesn't have to be a huge, overly taxing thing. If you have your character planned out well, then this should be fairly easy. Some of you already have color schemes down and you know what colors you want to use. Then set those colors aside on something like a layer for a color guide, and that makes this process go really easier, a whole lot easier. And there we go. I did not do his nose on this one. I'm just now noticing. So I need to go back and fill that nose so he's consistent. And so my character is coming along. He's a little wobbly and a little funky looking, but those are things I can always go back and adjust later down the line. So now I've got a few frames done, colored and inked, 3 frames right there. Now I just have a few more left to go. Once I get them all completed, then what you're going to do is the same thing we've done before, is copy these. Actually, I'm going to copy that extra gap too, and copy those frames, paste the frames here, paste frames. Now you're only going to do this until when you have all of yours completed. Obviously mine are not all completed. but I've got one more I need to do right here. Paste frames, there we go. Now it's extended me way out, so I don't need all of that. So what I'm gonna do is select these extra frames that are in the back here and choose that, slide down, select that one. I'm gonna remove these frames. I don't need those at all. And so now, see, once you have them inked and copied over, notice I only did three frames here. The rest of them are not colored, but then it goes back. And so make sure you color all of your original ones and then copy them over. Your color guide can then be hidden or deleted. And then what you'll do here is the process of rendering your video. Don't turn in a GIF. No credits can be given for a GIF because I do need to see that at this stage, all of your progress is showing at least 5 seconds worth of animation. That 5-second setup in this format right here is very important. So make sure you go through the process of rendering the video. You should know how to do that. File, export movie. Sorry. And then follow the YouTube that I have for how to render your animate video. And that's what we're going to do here. So, and that's what you're going to turn in for this assignment. So have fun with this, get into your color guide, create some swatches here that you want to use for your character. And that's a process that we'll use again for the environment as well. So have fun with this. And this is something I want to see the end of the day next time we meet. So good luck.